Everybody, it's Tyler here at the Championships, checking in team number 44-14. HighTide, 3 regional wins under their belt. It's like you just picked up where you left off in 2019, 2020, just never stopped. This team, absolutely phenomenal on here. Take a look at this robot, by the way. I have to admit, this robot is way bigger in person than I saw it on stream, so really cool for that. But to help me speak more about this robot, by the way, I have Adia, Anshul, Bryce, and Burden. And of course, we're going to follow that cargo journey through the robot and climber stuff too. We're going to be talking about some manufacturing processes that go into the robot that really makes HighTide that elite team that we see out here on the field. So can't wait to talk more about what's going on coming up here on Behind the Bumpers.
Your destination for first content, updates, and gaming.
Welcome to the fun.
First Updates Now is supported by the Milwaukee School of Engineering. MSOE offers week-long summer camps where high school students get to preview college by living on campus, exploring engineering programs, experimenting in labs, meeting with professors, and participating in fun group activities. Are you ready to experience STEM at MSOE? Visit msoe.edu/summer to learn more and register. First Updates Now is supported by Stryker Careers. Stryker's commitment to medical device technology innovation has made it a top career destination for those in FIRST. FIRST alumni and mentors are given top priority in their internship and career applications. Come create the next medical innovation that saves lives at careers.stryker.com.
So Adia, let's talk about machining and manufacturing. Why is your process so important to HighTide? And talk to me about what you do that makes your team really stand out.
Yeah, so this year we have, of course, a very unique design with our very modular frame, and that's required a lot of our parts on our robot to be completely manufactured and personalized to our robot. So I am one of the machinists on the team of 3 machinists, and we machine practically 80 to 90% of our robot is completely machined in-house. We are housed in Sessa Manufacturing, which is a sheet metal fabrication company, and so we have access to a lot of great machines such as the VF and the DM Haas mills, as well as a laser engraver and others machines. So all of our tubes and plates on this bot are machined by me and a couple other people, and they're completely unique to our robot because we don't get them manufactured outside. We machine them in-house. So we have 4 main ways of machining. So we have firstly our CNC mills in-house. So of course, I'd say about 80% of our robot is milled. We also have a CNC router, which we mill all of our Lexan plates on, such as these on the intake, as well as, those are examples. We also have a laser cutter in-house, which we cut all of our aluminum plates on. Yeah. The sheet metal plates. And we have a Markforged Onyx 3D printer, which we print all of our supports as well as our customized pulleys on. So, yeah.
So, I think one of the things a lot of times when people see like teams of your quality, they're like, oh, it's just farmed out, it's just all made that way. But, why is that so important to do so much in-house for your team?
Yeah, so it gives us a lot of flexibility. Our team is very modular, which means we're constantly iterating things, which means we always have to have new parts ready to be made. So practically every day in the shop, we're milling some sort of plate or some sort of tube, and that's been the same for the whole 6-week build season. So because we iterate so much, I've made countless parts on this robot, and so many that we've cycled through at least 4 different iterations of this whole robot. So yeah, lots of iterations means lots of milling.
Let's start to move into your robot. It's going to hand over to Anshul. He's going to talk more about your intake on it. Super wide intake that goes in. I'd love to hear more about testing and materials that you use for like your gripper. And of course, we'll start to follow that cargo journey.
Sure, so I've been doing the intakes for HighTide for a couple of years now, and so I've definitely learned a lot, and this intake has gone through several iterations. The first iteration was very simple, something that a lot of teams did, which was just the 4-bar with pneumatic pistons, and that worked really good, except that we had pistons and pneumatic components on the robot, which added a lot of weight and complexity. This robot clearly is a whole lot simpler now. So in the second revision, we went from 3-inch flex wheels to 4-inch flex wheels, and changed the plates out from and just made them thicker, and that worked okay. But then we decided that since none of the other components on the robot needed pneumatics, that we could cut pneumatics completely and use the chain and sprocket design, which is something we kind of looked at from 148. And so this intake is driven by a Falcon motor with a chain and sprocket and a shaft that goes across the robot and drives the other side. We tried this with flex wheels for AVR, which was our last regional, and that worked quite well. And then we kind of watched poofs a bit, and we really liked this anti-slip material, and so we decided to give it a try. We really like it because it's easy to wrap these rollers and just replace them if anything gets bent. The flex wheels were just a little annoying because they required spacers in between everything, and they were a lot heavier than just a little roller. This roller is a 2.5-inch thin wall aluminum tube. And then we have Mecanum wheels that guide the balls in from this side. It just creates a little bit of bias because otherwise the two get stuck in here. These Lexan flaps are CNC routed and then bent using a heat gun, and that kind of guides the balls.
Was this originally on your robot, or was this added on after?
Yes and no.
Sure, all right.
We originally had some like aluminum thing that was in there before we swapped the intake. When we swapped it, that didn't work quite as well. So we just tried something like this.
Can we grab a piece of cargo and see that come in?
Sure, let's do it.
On there? So, and then something we talked about ahead of time too is this bumper material is a little bit different on here. So you've gotten some more grip out of that, right?
Yeah, so the day before our first regional ball, our intake wasn't picking up balls.
Yeah.
And that was purely because of the sailcloth being too slippery. So trying this Cordura kind of canvas material really helped out.
So as we move into this hopper area on here, anything you want to talk about from, I know we'll be talking maybe some sensors and programming later, but anything else in regards to compression, angles, that sort of thing?
So I think Burton will talk about our color sensor a little later, but that's something that has been really important to our team. Hopper is very basic. Adya mentioned adaptability and modularity, which is something that's really important to our team. So being able to change sensor positions and add new components is really important. This big plate just allows for holes to be kind of drilled anywhere that they need to be, with a hole pattern here to mount anything that needs to happen. We originally had all sorts of accelerator tech on this robot with Fairlane wheels here to accelerate the balls, but we found that just flex wheel array all the way up does it just as well, and is much lighter than the Fairlane wheels.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think, a big change between Infinite Recharge and this year has just been how much, I don't know if easier is the right word, but just how much more pliable and useful that the cargo has been in regards to like what type of material you're gonna use to grip it. So for sure on that. Let's keep moving on and hand it over to Bryce, who's gonna talk about your shooter and then go into climber as well. And I think to me, this team ranked 13th in the pre-chance FRC top 25. I think a big reason that is just because of your shooting capabilities that we've seen. Starting to see some shooting on the fly as well too. I know last year when we did an interview with you, I think that was one of the big highlights of it, and I've seen it carry over into this year. So talk to me more about your shooter first, and then we'll go into your climber.
Yeah, sure. So when we were planning our robot this year, we knew that we would want the adaptability of a 360-degree turret to be able to shoot from anywhere on the field. So we knew we'd have an advantage, say being pinned up against a wall or stuck up anywhere against defense. We'd be able to turn our turret and be able to shoot at the goal from any angle. So we went ahead and did that this year. We have a bearing stack system in here as part of our turret with a laser gear rack, and that allows us to spin our turret in any direction. It's actually a little over 360, and we do that so we avoid a dead zone problem. So that overlap system doesn't swing the turret back and forth in where dead zones. This is our third iteration of our turret and shooter, and the differences, the changes that we made since our first and second regionals are our motorized hood back here. So we used to use linear servos to drive our hood actuation, and now we use a Falcon motor on a gearbox and a laser rack back here. And that just is much faster than a linear servo for actuating our hood, as well as it gives us the range that we need to be able to get those far shots and right up against the goal. We also moved our limelight to a top mount sort of thing, and that allows us to see the goal from any angle, especially up against the hub. It makes it much easier for us to catch that limelight target.
So HighTide, I've seen shoot from all over the field, right? But where's kind of the sweet spot for HighTide to shoot from?
Is definitely near the tarmac zone, a little bit outside is really our zone. We like shooting from that zone. But really, we can make shots from anywhere now. We've got a really nice tune on our shooter.
That's what I was just about to say. It just seems like nowadays you're shooting from pretty much wherever you please. You can just pick it up, shoot right away, that sort of thing. It's been so great. Let's talk about your climber a little bit more. I know we won't be able to probably show up a full demo based on what type of climber you have, but talk to me more about it and maybe just describe some of the stages as you go through.
Sure. So we use a dual telescoping tube climber, similar to Citrus Circuits.
Yeah.
They have the same sort of climber. So these telescoping tubes are on gas shocks, and they actually pivot outside the robot frame. And what that does is it allows the robot's weight to pull on the telescoping tube, take it out of the frame, and allow us to reach the next rung with the other bar. And that gives us a traversal climb in about 5 seconds.
That's incredible on there. So yeah, and I agree. Your climber's been fantastic as well too as it goes through. So from your packaging standpoint here, I think one of the great things about this type of climber is that you're able to just it's not necessarily the big centerpiece in your robot, right? You can still build around it. Looking from a priority standpoint, as you were building your robot or designing your robot on there, like where did climber fall in versus like shooter and cargo acquisition? Like what was there one that was more important than the other, or how did you kind of figure out the packaging?
Yeah. So our climber was definitely. We knew from the beginning of the season that we wanted to traverse, but it was definitely lower on our priority list because we knew that shooting would sort of dominate the game come champs time and really high-level play. So actually before this comp, we had theorized that a traversal climb would be sort of useless to a really high-level team that's shooting to the end of the match.
Yeah.
So what we did is we prototyped this high-level climber, and what that does is it just has a passively actuating arm with some surgical tubing. We can demonstrate that. Just put it down. We can show it like actuating. Like this? Yeah, set it down on the ground. So, put it on the ground. So, we have these little laser cut hubs here. And what those do is they transfer the torque around. And when the elevator lifts up, the arm swings out. And that allows us to have a really nice passively actuated arm to grab onto that high bar in about 3 seconds.
So is this something that you would potentially swap for like playoffs or something like that?
And that's why we brought it. So
sure.
We wanted to have those
self
options.
cheesecake, I get it.
Yeah.
So.
So we actually this was our plan to run with at Champs originally, but sort of as Champs was growing closer, we wanted to have the options of the 1678 style climber. And having that traversal option if needed.
Let's bring in Burton, who's going to talk about some programming on your robot. I know we talked about color sensor earlier, but I know there's a lot more that goes into the HighTide robot. So talk to me more about what's gone into this. And then we're going to wrap up, bring Anshul and talk a little bit more about your scouting program as well.
Yeah, so our main goal for programming is to make it as easy as possible for the driver and also have a very high point average. Something I want to start with is the swerve modules. So these are Swerve Dry specialty off-the-shelf swerve modules. We have 2 falcons per module and a can coder to see the turning angle of each module. We get the swerve drive encoder values and we put that into odometry, which tells us how far the robot has moved during our match to see where we are on the field. We also take in limelight values to see how far away the target is to relocalize the odometry.
So that's for your drift, right? In odometry, you're trying to reset that each time?
Yeah,
sure.
So if there's error with odometry, we will relocalize with the limelight. This unlocks a lot of things by knowing where we are on the field. We can automatically set the hood angles, the shooter speeds for both the shooter and the roller, and we know how fast we are moving with the robot. Something great we can do with knowing our velocity of the robot is we can do feed forwarding. When the robot's moving and we're aiming directly at the target, we won't make the shot because there's already velocity going with the robot. So what we do is we offset the turret a little bit towards the opposite direction of which we're moving, and it will drain into the target. Something I want to talk about here towards the hopper is that we have 2 separate chambers here, one for each ball, and we have a banner sensor within each chamber. So we know when a ball enters each chamber, and also we have a color sensor to sense what color ball is in the robot, and we get our team color through field data, and if it's the wrong team's ball, we auto eject it with a lower RPM of the shooter. We also have different set points for the intake with the new motorized intake. We have Bryce, our operator, can set it to a halfway point for bouncing balls, so we can quickly clamp down on balls once they land on the ground. Something I want to talk about with the climber is that when we pull up to the first bar and we pull down, we can see the gyro tilts with our gyro. We can see the swing of our robot. And when the robot has come to more of a centered mass, or more stable swing, we shoot up with the next arm to climb to the next rung. Yeah, and and one last thing, we have field-oriented control. So with the gyro, we know what angle we're at. So no matter which way we are turned, we'll always drive forward and backwards depending on which way the joystick is pointing.
Did you want to show off the color sensor at all too?
Yes.
So we'll do that and then we'll wrap up talking about a little bit of scouting. So it's a nice easy shot as it comes out, right? Very cool on that. Let's wrap up and talk about scouting a little bit. We got some stuff on screen. I know we were talking on show earlier that your team's out with the devices using right now, but we can see a little bit of what that looks like on here.
Sure. So scouting has become something that's really important for our team, making sure that we have good data that can lead to a good strategy. So the first thing that we have is an app sheet app that I developed that allows kids in the stands to basically input data for robot performance. Now it's basically just a nice Google sheet or Google form, just a better interface. What's cool about it is we use QR codes. That's what the students have right now that let them figure out which team they're scouting. So rather than kids trying to figure out who they're scouting, they just scan a card and it tells them which team.
That's cool, yeah.
And because we're such a small team, only around 12 students, we actually work with other teams at the event to scout. So right now we have 3 other teams that are working with us, and we're double scouting every match to ensure accurate data.
That's great.
So all of the data comes into the sheet here, and then once it's all parsed through this, it does a bunch of math and creates an average data sheet. And then for like creating strategy and stuff, we have an app, like an output app, where you can look at graphs of teams and look at their consistency. So this is us. You can see kind of an upward ramp. We can look at 971 and see they're reasonably consistent. And this is just something good to see with how often they're climbing and stuff like that. So.
Is this something you mentioned that you're scouting with other teams? So is this something that is like publicly available or anything like that?
The app is not something that we offer. We just offer the average data sheet to everyone. This is just something that we personally use.
Yeah, that's awesome to be able to provide that information as well too. Well, 4414 HighTide, thanks a lot. Once again, speaking with your team, I look forward to it every single year. So, so congratulations on a great robot. Can't wait to see performance here at Championships and wish you best of luck. Thanks a lot.
First Updates Now is supported by the Milwaukee School of Engineering. MSOE offers week-long summer camps where high school students get to preview college by living on campus, exploring engineering programs, experimenting in labs, meeting with professors, and participating in fun group activities. Are you ready to experience STEM at MSOE? Visit msoe.edu/summer to learn more and register. Thanks to Stryker Careers for their support in this video. First, alumni and mentors are making Stryker a top priority for their internships and careers. That's because Stryker knows that those in first are the leaders and innovators of tomorrow. If you want to help make the world a better place by creating life-saving medical devices and technology, get started at careers.stryker.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow and check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.